In this video, we are going to learn how we can use the DataWeave transformation language in Mulesoft applications, how we can check, how we can perform various operations in a DataWeave application, in a DataWeave language, in a Mule 4 application. So earlier, before Mule 4, when Mule 3 was there was a language which was known as Mule expression language. Now that Mule expression language, which is MEL, has been replaced by DataWeave, which is the newly created Mulesoft language. So there are two versions of DataWeave. Number one is DataWeave 1.0 and second one is DataWeave 2.0. In Mule 4, we are using DataWeave 2.0. So in our last videos, we have shown you some snippets of using DataWeaves. The most basic component which is using the DataWeave is the transform message component. Now this is, please note that this is not the only one component which is using DataWeave. You can use DataWeave anywhere in your application, wherever you want. So suppose if you would like to use DataWeave in set variable, you just have to click fx here in the value part and then click here, and then you can type any DataWeave information here. But generally it is recommended that we should use the transform message component to understand DataWeave, because this is by default component which use DataWeave as a language. So first of all, we will do a very simple use of DataWeave, where we are going to concatenate two strings. So there are two strings, one is hello, second one is word. Now to concatenate these two strings, there is a DataWeave operator plus plus. We can use that operator and we can store this result as content colon yes, and we'll set the output as application slash JSON. So what we did here is, we had two strings, number one is hello, number two is word. So we are concatenating these two strings using the plus plus operator of DataWeave, and we restoring the output in content key in the payload, and then we will be setting this payload in the set payload so that we can get the same output in the API call. So we'll click fx and set up this payload as a output format of this API. We will just remove this set variable just to ensure that we understand whatever we are doing. So first of all, we are receiving a request at listener at slash application1. Then remove this logger because we do not need this logger anymore. Then we are transforming our message using the transform message component. We are adding two strings here, one is hello and second one is word. So we are concatenating these two strings, putting these two strings into the content key and adding this particular JSON as application slash JSON into the payload variable. Now then we are sending the payload variable back as a response to this API. Now understand this. So this particular line says that we are going to use DataWeave. DW's full form is DataWeave. The version is 2.0. So we are going to use DataWeave 2.0. This line tells the compiler or the runtime engine that we are going to use DataWeave 2.0 version of DataWeave transformation language, so that the runtime engine is ready to understand whatever is coming the next. Now this line is showing that the output of this expression would be in application slash JSON, so that the engine, the runtime engine, understand that it has to receive the JSON output. Now these three dashes are the separator between header and the body of DataWeave expression language. So these all are the headers and this is the body of a DataWeave transformation language. Here in the body, we are concatenating two string and putting it into the key content and then adding it as a JSON because we would like to have the JSON output. Now let us run this application and try to see whether it will fulfill our desire or not, whether it will show us the hello world once again, but now in the two strings. Again, it will take few seconds to start the server and do everything else. Okay, so it has been started and deployed. Now we will go back to our Postman, go to application 1 since we have made the changes in application 1 flow, and we will send the request to application 1 and we will get the content as hello world. So what it did, we have done the concatenation using the DataWeave transformation language in the transform message component. Now let us understand what other operation we can do in DataWeave language. There, there might be many operations here in the DataWeave. So what we can do is we can check all the operations. Once we type any DataWeave expression here, we can check the preview. Okay, so let me talk about the DataWeave here and I will show you what all operation we can perform in DataWeave. Please note that the operation which we will be doing in DataWeave are the very tiny list of operations. There are many more capabilities into DataWeave which we may have a broader video on the DataWeave transformation language only. So let me go back to the DataWeave 2.0. Let me just run this PowerPoint presentation with you. So DataWeave 2.0 is a language which supports the Mule applications. You can use the Java classes as well, and you can use the DataWeave 2.0 language in Mule 4 applications. So this version is for Mule 4 applications. As I have already mentioned that Mule 3 was using MEL, which is the Mulesoft expression language. And the studio version required for this language is 7.2.3 or the later version, because the earlier version of AnyPoint Studio was not having the capabilities to understand DataWeave 2.0. So for DataWeave 2.0 you need to upgrade your AnyPoint Studio if you are using AnyPoint Studio version less than 7.2.3. We are using 7.3, that is why we do not have any problems using this DataWeave transformation language. We have just shown this application by concatenating two strings in DataWeave. In the first line, as you can see, we are defining percentage DW 2.0. This will tell the runtime engine that we are going to use the DataWeave transformation language 2.0 version 2.0, and the second line shows that we are going to output this operation as application slash JSON. The third line is a separator. There are three dashes. Is a separator between headers and the body of this transformation. Then in the body we have a JSON and the key as my string and value as the concatenation between two strings hello and word. The concatenation operator is there, which is plus plus. The output of this particular operation is hello word. Now there is a second operation, which is transform JSON input to XML output. What we need to do here is we just have to change the second line of the header, which is application slash XML. Now let us do it into our studio. So what we will do in the studio is we are going to change it as application slash XML, and we are going to merge it as hello world, because we would like to see whether it will give us the XML output or not. Save by using Control S. Try to see if it has been deployed. Okay, so one more thing I would like to emphasize is whenever you change any kind of a component, if your server is running, then it will be auto deployed into the server. So now we will go back to our application 1 and try to send the request. Voila. So as we can see that the output of the JSON output has been converted to XML. So this is how simple how simple DataWeave application is. So if you would like to transfer your message from JSON to XML, you just have to type XML here, and this will show you the output as XML. This was our second operation. Now come back to the DataWeave transformation 2.0. Now our third operation is the supported data type into the DataWeave. So there are many data types. Okay, so DataWeave 2.0 second line is says output application JSON. So there are many data types. One is the string. You can type as a string in the double quotes. There is a number. You can type it without the double quotes. Then there is a floating point number. You can type it as the number itself. There is a very big number where you can type the bigger numbers. There is a my date variables, my date data type, where you can type the date in the format YYYY hyphen hyphen DD and put it into between the pipes. There is a time. There is a date time. This is the format of the date time. There is a boolean variable. There is an array variable. There is a mixed array which saves some integers, some strings and some objects. There is an object key value pair. There is an object with conditional field like this. If C is equal to 2, then D is equal to false or something like that. There is a null variable. There is a binary variable and all of that. So these are the supported data type of DataWeave transformation. Going to the next one, which is defining and use a DataWeave variable as the input. So what we can do is this in the header part of the DataWeave expression language, we can store any information inside a variable. Like we are storing this object with the key hello and value word. We are storing this object in my JSON, and then in body we are printing my JSON only. So let us try to see the example of this as the running example in the studio. So right now we are storing this hello word into the content. What we can do is we can just put it into the header like var output equals to this one, and then put output here as the output of this application. So output is a keyword, that is why it was showing us the error. So I have changed my variable name as my output. Now if we are going to run this example, it will show us the same result, since we are creating a variable in DataWeave and trying to use the same into the body part of DataWeave. So there is no change in the content, that is why it will show us the same XML output as we were showing into the last call. So this same output will be shown to us when we run this application. So as I save this, this has been already deployed, and if I try to send the request, this will show us the same output. Now just to ensure whether it is working or not, we are going to change the hello world to some other string so that we are sure that it has been changed. So hello world, I am replacing hello world as Mulesoft. Save. This will deploy the application. Go back to the postman, click to send, and you can see that it has been changed as Mulesoft. So this is how simple the DataWeave is. Going back to the next operation of DataWeave, which is the DataWeave function in a DataWeave variable. So there are few functions available in DataWeave, like the AVG function, which will output as average of 1 to 1000 or average of 1, 2 and 3, and it will save the average of 1 to 1000 in A, and it will save the average of 1 to 3 in B variable, B keys, and this the entire object will be stored in myJSON, and then myJSON will be printed as a variable. So let us see how this going to impact in our live application. Go back to the studio, go back to the transform message component, try to replace this DataWeave with the DataWeave which we have presented in the PowerPoint presentation. Then Control S and go back to the postman, try to send the request. As we can see, the average of 1 to 1000 is 500.5 and average of 1 to 3 is 2.0. So this has been calculated by this AVG function, which is the inbuilt function of DataWeave. There are many other functions which you can see over the internet, and since the output is application/JSON, that is why we are getting JSON here, JSON as an output here. Now go back to the DataWeave functions and try to see what else we have. So there is a read, transform, select content from my input. So for example, this is an input. This can be a payload also. It is a hard-coded input right here. We are reading this input as XML and then storing it in my read variable, and then from my read variable we are extracting the key car and storing it in my selection and returning the result in JSON format. So this is pretty interesting to see how this will behave. So what I'll do is I'll just copy paste this DataWeave transformation from here to our transform message component. We'll save by Control S, go back to the postman, try to send the request, and we will get my selection color dot red, because the car component which we are reading, it has color red. If we are reading car dot color, then it will print as red only, like this. So it is showing the my selection red because we are storing we are reading car dot red, car dot color, which has the value of red, and we are storing this information in key my selection. So this is how easy the DataWeave transformation language is. There are few more operations which are there. So reading the file contents with the DataWeave function. So for example, sorry. So for example, if there is a file, then there is a method named as read URL. You can put your file into the class path or any other or at any other place in your system and try to put the entire path here with the file name and try to read this file as a JSON. Then you can see the content of the file in the console.